let's talk about Thanksgiving. So I remember my first Thanksgiving when I was tracking, my first time tracking. I had been tracking for a few months and Thanksgiving came. And my coach that I was working with at the time expected me to track all day on Thanksgiving. And what that did was it created an all or nothing mentality for me. And because I couldn't be perfect, I ended up throwing in the towel and eating whatever I wanted. And then which kind of turned into like several days of eating whatever I wanted because I was at my parents' house and with family and stuff. So to me, that's not the best way to do it. We have one of the biggest things that one of the biggest reasons you guys are working with me, whether you realize it or not, is to have a better relationship with food, correct? Like we've talked about separating emotion from the food that we're eating. And that's a hard thing to do because we have spent years using food as a reward to something that we've accomplished, or maybe even a way to comfort us in a time of like sorrow or need. And now we're trying to undo that. So if we attach this emotion of joy or happiness or friendship or whatever with food, then it kind of negates what we're working on, right? Is separating. Food is food. It's neither good nor bad. That's why I don't tell you there's things you can't have when you're working with me. It just depends on what's worth it to you. You all know that if you eat one unhealthy meal or one very healthy meal, you're not going to get to your end result, right? If you eat one meal that's overindulging, you're also not going to get to it's also not going to destroy getting to your end result. So I want you to look at that Thanksgiving meal as a meal. It is not a weekend. It is not even a whole day. It's a meal. I don't want you to have guilt behind what you eat. You definitely can have more intention. And I for sure have learned how to have more intention with my Thanksgiving meal or any holiday meal. Thanksgiving is by far my favorite holiday because my family loves food. Like we love like made from scratch, good food. My mom taught us how to cook and we love it. It's like our love language, all of us. And so Thanksgiving is by far my favorite meal because of that. So I definitely could use emotion in my food process, in my food choices with Thanksgiving. So I'm going to teach you how to enjoy your Thanksgiving meal and not feel guilt behind it. Okay. And I'll kind of talk you through like what I do in a day for a day like today or like that day. And then if you guys have any other suggestions, or if there's something that kind of pops out at you, and you want to comment on it, or if I didn't cover something that you would normally do or still have questions on, then let me know. Okay. So there's a couple things that I do. And if you guys want to write these down, you can. There's a couple things that I do. I said, well, first, before going into this day, you need to identify what success looks like to you. Everybody's going to be different. Write it down. Have one or two things that really make you feel like if by the end of the day, I do these two things, I'm going to feel happy with my day. So that can be something non-food related or food related. So some suggestions there are like maybe your goal is to use the plate method for Thanksgiving dinner, or maybe, which the plate method is when we fill a fourth of our plate with protein, a fourth of our plate with starchy carbs, and half our plate with vegetables. Maybe that's one of your goals. Another idea is hit your water goal for the day, or make sure you've eaten enough protein before that Thanksgiving meal. Or some other options are know how many drinks you're going to have that day and keep it to that limit, or drink water in between drinks. Those are all options. Or maybe go on a walk after dinner, and I'm just throwing out ideas that like pop into my head. Another option would be like get a smaller plate size and only fill that plate, and then make sure that you sit and visit with friends and family before you decide if you want to go back for seconds. Okay. So those are a couple options. So identify what success looks like to you. That's your number one. What does success look like? Okay. Make it as specific as possible and measurable if possible. Okay. So for example, I want to drink less. Like that's not measurable. You need to identify, what does drinking less look like? Like, does that mean 2 drinks? Does that mean 3 drinks? What does it look? Maybe it means, maybe success looks like, I want to log the drinks that I have so that I know exactly how many calories and how many fats I'm having. For those of you that don't know how to track alcohol, let me know. I can send you a quick tutorial video on how to do that. So identify what success looks like to you. The second suggestion is, because you know your Thanksgiving meal, whether it's at lunchtime or dinner, is going to be heavy on the carb and the fat side, I would eat high protein leading up to that Thanksgiving meal. So our dinner is usually like around 1 or 2. Normally I would eat a balanced breakfast, like protein, carbs, and fat. But on Thanksgiving, I keep it as high protein, low fat, low carb as possible. I'll do egg whites with maybe a little bit of avocado or maybe some light cheese, something like that. And then I'll have a protein shake with no like fruit or anything in it, just my protein powder. And a few hours later, and then I'll make sure I'm drinking lots of water to kind of fill me up. So make sure you're eating high protein, save those carbs and fats for later. I'm not necessarily asking you to track your food. If you choose to track on Thanksgiving, that is completely up to you. And that can be one of your like quote unquote successes for the day if you choose to track. But I'm not requiring that of you. If you would like to mindfully eat that day and you feel like that's going to help you get back on and get right back to tracking the very next day, then do that. That's fine with me. So what was I saying? So I said, identify what success looks like to you, eat high protein leading up to the meal. And then the third one is make sure, like if you have a water goal of drinking 100 ounces in a day, you need to have had at least half of that by that meal. Okay. If your dinner's later in the day, try and get 3/4 of your water in before you eat. If there are appetizer options before your meal, go for the ones that are going to be a little bit lower on the like carb and fat side. So some of the appetizers that we do at our family dinner is we always have like a big veggie tray with dip. Dips that's where your fats and carbs are going to be. It is really easy to make some low fat dip. So one of my favorite ways to have a low fat dip is to do either cottage cheese with ranch mixed into it, ranch seasoning mixed into it. That's going to be high protein and it tastes just as good as having like the full fat ranch. Or you could do Greek yogurt with ranch seasoning in it if you want it to be a little bit thicker or if you don't like cottage cheese. So don't be afraid to like bring your own little sides or dips if you're not the one hosting. If you are hosting, have your own little dipping thing, and then your guests can have a regular dip. Sometimes you can make things healthy and people won't even know. Like I do a fruit dip that's cottage cheese or not cottage cheese. It's light cream cheese and Greek yogurt. And then I use that strawberry Clean Simple Eats protein powder. And it is so good. It's like a fruit dip. It is so good. And my kids, my nieces, my nephews have no idea that it's healthy. Like it's creamy and yummy. So there are definitely, if you guys want some ideas on foods that are going to be a little bit lower in fat or carbs, let me know. By the way, this is really hard, like talking at you and not hearing any of your comments. So if anybody wants to unmute themselves and chime in, I am totally fine with that. Okay, so drink your water, eat high protein leading up to the meal. I think it was Valerie that asked if she should skip. I think you said, should I skip meals before the dinner? Okay, so one of the biggest things is I wouldn't completely skip meals. I wouldn't like intermittent fast or anything like that, because you're going to go into that meal feeling really, really hungry. And what happens when we're hungry? How's our willpower? Not good, right? So we want to make sure that we have something in our stomach, because when we skip, our blood sugar's low and we start to crave carbs, because carbs are what help bring our blood sugar up. So you're going to go for like those starchy carbs first. So try and make sure you're coming into dinner with something in your stomach. Cindy asked, can I save calories from 3 days to make up on Thanksgiving, since I know it will be difficult to stay under? So unfortunately, the answer to that is no. And the reason is, I want to put this into workout terms for you guys, because a lot of you guys are members of the gym as well. If you skipped 3 days of working out and then you did a 3-hour workout one day, are you going to get the same results as if you worked out for 1 hour back to back to back in the days leading up to that? No, you're not going to get the same results. So unfortunately, you can't like bank your calories. But, and also the other reason I don't want you to do that is because it creates this like emotion or negative feeling towards food when you do that. So again, remember, we want to enjoy this meal, be mindful, enjoy it, have no guilt, and move right on to our normal routine the very next day. Okay. So let's talk about desserts, because those, I mean, it's inevitable that you guys are going to have pie. You're probably, going to have a couple extra dinner rolls or something like that. Whatever your thing is, like, don't keep yourself from having it. So let's talk about pie. Okay. Pie, like if you think about pie, hold on. Yes, you can't come in, bud. You can come in, just be real quiet. Okay. Sorry. Pie is like, I don't know if I've ever asked somebody, what is your favorite dessert? And someone says pie. Does anybody think that that's their favorite? Like generally no. But the reason we love it is because we really only eat it on Thanksgiving, right? Like there's certain pies that I love, but only because I have them once a year. So if there's lots of options, like my family, we go crazy. There's 15 pies and they're all homemade. They're amazing. So what I do is, because I want to taste all of them, I do like the smallest sliver possible of all the pies. And I end up having probably one full piece. And I may do that more than one time, but at least it gives me options and like lets me try them all. And then my favorite pie is pecan pie. And so I might choose an hour later to go back and have a full slice of pecan pie. But that gives me kind of it gives me the opportunity to try them all, but then like stop and like take a break. And the biggest thing is, we don't want to mindlessly eat. We want to be mindful and be mindful in our choices when we're eating Thanksgiving dinner. Another thing is, my mom makes the most amazing dinner rolls. They're awesome. Strawberry jam, like, it's my favorite thing ever. I'll skip my dinner roll with my dinner, like with my meal. I'll eat all my food first. And then I kind of save that dinner roll for like a treat, because it's usually has like strawberry jam or something on it and it tastes really sweet. And if I eat it with my meal, I actually don't enjoy it as much because I get too full. So because I know I love that, instead of having one with dinner and then end up having another one later, I'll just save it for later when I'm not as full and I can really enjoy it. So if there's something you really, really enjoy, maybe choose to eat it on its own later when you're not so full. Does that make sense? Because you're going to enjoy it more.
I have a question about that. So you're saying you don't have your roll, but you save it for later. So then do you have less pie, or do you still have the same amount of pie?
I have the same amount of pie.
Okay.
That does not negate pie.
Okay.
But I think if I were to have a roll with my dinner, I'd end up having another roll later too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So whatever you like the most, don't skip it. But if you know that it's something you go back for seconds, maybe just skip it the first plate and then wait or go on a walk or do something and then have it when you really later when you're not so full and you can really enjoy it. Doesn't mean you're not having it. Like raspberry pretzel jello salad. That's another favorite. You guys are getting all my favorites right now. I love raspberry pretzel jello salad. I don't know why they throw the word salad in there because it's not. It's straight up dessert and it's amazing. But I will, so I do like a dinner plate and then I have like a dessert plate. That and my roll and my pie kind of go on the same plate. So I guess because I'm putting them all on the same plate, I probably do end up having a little bit less pie because my plate is smaller anyways. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of treating it as a dessert, but I'm still having all of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So this is a perfect opportunity for you guys to practice what's worth it to you. Don't put things on your plate that's not worth it. Like potatoes, regular potatoes and gravy. I don't care about that. Like it's fine, but it's not the thing I'm looking forward to the most. But I love sweet potato casserole. So I'll do that instead. Both a starch, they're both starches. And I would rather have the sweet potato casserole than the like mashed potatoes. So just decide what's worth it, what's not. Does that make sense? And then the next suggestion is get up and move. Do something, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's playing a game outside with your kids or your family members, friends, whatever. Just do something active and get your body moving. I always work out in the morning as well because partly because I know I'm going to be eating a lot of calories, but partly just because that's my routine. Like I always work out in the morning. And so I just do that. We generally will do some kind of like run together as a family or something. Get your kids involved. Claudia, I know you're really good at that. So get your kids involved, do something active, and then still go on that walk later in the afternoon. As far as alcohol goes, same thing, guys. Just make sure you're getting your water in. Know what success looks like to you going into it, and then be willing to switch back to water or soda water or something like that once you've hit your limit. And one other thing is, like, if you're in a group setting and you may choose some healthier options, don't let other people make you feel guilty about that. Like, you may have an aunt or an uncle or a brother or someone that kind of gives you crap for like eating better or healthier. Like, this is your journey and you don't have to feel guilty or feel bad about it. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone either. You know, do what you want. Okay, what kind of questions do you guys have surrounding Thanksgiving? You can just unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
It's not really a question, Kirsten.
Okay.
I didn't realize. Oh,
go ahead.
It's not really a question, but I thank you for emphasizing the importance of like what you do up to the meal. Like now I have some ideas as to, okay, I need to make sure that I have my protein in during breakfast, which means I'm going to have to make sure that I pack something, that's my typical meal for breakfast and lunch. And because I wasn't even thinking in that mindset, I'm just kind of packing my clothes and putting my kid in the car and getting there. But they're like those kinds of preparations make a difference leading up to the meal. So I appreciate that comment.
That reminds me, I'm going to share my screen with you guys and show you something. And I have shared this with some of you guys before. Let's see. Okay, one second. Gotta move this guy. Okay, so some of you guys have seen this before, but this is my travel guide. This is gonna, for those that are traveling, this is gonna help you kind of know how to pack. So if you choose to track while you're traveling, you should definitely bring a scale with you. It's going to be the most accurate way. Now, again, you need to identify what success looks like to you when you're traveling. But if you choose to track, grab a portable scale. Have some kind of protein powder with you as well. So the Driven protein powder or the Clean Simple Eats or the Just Ingredients are the 3 that I recommend. But having a shaker bottle and protein powder, it makes it so easy for like a quick snack, or if you're feeling like you're on the go and all of a sudden you're starving, that's a good option. Or starting your day with that. That's another thing. Have some low calorie condiments as well. So hot sauce, salad dressing. This Bolthouse Farms salad dressing is my favorite because it is Greek yogurt based. So the macros are really good. You can find it at any grocery store in the produce section. They have lots of different flavors. So pick up some of those and then bring some seasonings with you, like ranch seasoning, buffalo sauce, things like that, that you can add to your food that's going to give it flavor without adding extra calories. Bring some low calorie drinks with you. I know some people are super anti-diet soda. I am not one of those people. So especially if it keeps you like from drinking something that's higher calorie, so you can do diet soda, you can do Crystal Light, you can do some kind of like LaCroix or soda water. A lot of times, like I'd use the Her Times, which is like a hormone health drink, and I'll add that packet to a LaCroix and with a squeeze of lime, and it's like a fizzy, yummy drink that I have every single day. So that's something you can do. And then you can also buy packs of the Fit Aids that we sell at the gym, and we always bring a case of Fit Aids with us when we go out of town. It's nice, especially when you're driving, to have something other than water to drink sometimes. So then we're going to go back to define what success is to you on your vacation beforehand. And this is the same thing with our holiday. Define what success looks like to you. And that might be something like how many times are you going to exercise? How much protein are you going to eat? Using the plate method. Maybe you choose to only eat out X amount of times while you're gone, things like that. And then plan and prepare. So if you have access to a kitchen, you definitely want to try and plan to bring some things with you or grocery shop once you get there. One thing that I do is I try and eat at home or wherever we're staying as many meals as possible. So usually 2, and then I'll leave 1 meal where we can eat out. So I try to only eat out 1 time a day while we're traveling. If we're eating out more than once, I'll do 1 meal that's about like the plate method or lower in carb and fat, and then I'll do 1 meal that's more indulging. Let's see, pack your snacks. This is huge, Claudia. If you haven't gotten your snacks together, I highly recommend that. So packing your snacks that are high protein and possibly if you can find snacks that don't need to be refrigerated or in a cooler, that's going to help a lot too. I have some listed here. The turkey jerky from Trader Joe's is my favorite because it's a lot softer than some of the other turkey jerkies that you can find out there. You can do nut butters. They even sell the nut butters like in little packets, so you don't have to have like a jar of nut butter. We go through a lot of cashews at our house, so I do just baggies of cashews, or you can buy the nut packs like peanuts or anything like that. You can always find those kind of things also at a gas station. So if you're driving and you have to stop at a gas station, I always look for like nut packs, jerky. Sometimes they'll have like yogurt, like Greek yogurt, or they'll have some fruit sometimes every once in a while, or cheese sticks. That's another option. So having your protein powder, having some protein bars, the Power Crunch bars, the GTG bars are some of the go-tos for us. And then if you like tuna, the tuna creation packets are so easy to pack because they're so thin and they don't take up a lot of room, and they have all these different flavors. They have ranch, buffalo, like original, all these different, like I think there's a sweet and spicy or whatever. There's all these different flavors, and taking that, and it might sound gross and I don't care. Like I will 100% take a packet of that with some crackers for my lunch or some veggies or something and sit on the beach and eat that. Like I have no problem with that. So just kind of decide what success looks like for you. So again, shoot for 2 healthy meals plus healthy snacks, and then eat out that 1 other meal. Skip your heavy starches or grains and ask for extra veggies when you eat out. If you're eating out more than once, that's another option, is trying to double up on your veggies Or if you have a starch on your plate, eat everything else first and then have that starch. So if you have like a burger, for example, and you have fries with it, first of all, it's very easy to sub out a salad. So a lot of times, like my husband and I, one of us will get a salad with our side and the other will get fries, and then we kind of share. So that way we're not both having fries, but you can still have a few. Or I'll get a side salad and then just still a few fries from my kids. And then let's see, I said skip heavy starches or grains, ask for extra veggies, and then pick the things you really want to eat and give up on the rest of them. So ask yourself, do I really want this, or am I just eating it because it's here? And then estimating is better than not tracking at all. And that's just if you decide to track while you're traveling. How long are you gone, Claudia?
I am gone Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay, so you're gone for a good amount of time. So I would probably track as best you can, because that's going to give you that extra layer of accountability.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing. Any questions on any of that, guys? Or have any of you guys used any of those methods? I know some of you I've shared that with before. Okay. Any other questions around the holidays? All right. Well, let's move into, let me see if there's any specific questions that people ask me. Okay, so now let's move into the reverse diet and cutting section. So some of you are brand new with me. I have 3, Trisha, Stephanie, and Valerie. You guys are within your first week or two. So, and all of you are still in the reverse process right now. So let's kind of walk through what that looks like. Just, I know some of you I've already done this with, but just to be clear with everyone. Does that sound good? All right, so what is the purpose of our reverse? So our reverse is because a lot of times we undereat. Our reverse diet is exactly what it sounds like. It's when we are gradually increasing calories with the intention of stimulating our metabolism to burn more efficiently. So it might sound easy, it might seem like, okay, no big deal, you're going to give me more food, but it can be difficult when you get towards the top of your reverse. So Dallin is getting to the top of her reverse, and we just had this conversation today, how we both, her and I are both close to the top. And it's hard to eat that much food. It's hard to not feel like you're gaining weight, even though the scale isn't moving. It still feels weird to be eating that much food. But this is an important part of the process, and you will be so much happier going through this process because it's going to help you see the results that you want, because you're now working with a metabolism that is used to burning much more calories than it was before. So let's talk about, have you guys ever heard the term metabolic adaptation? So this is when our metabolism has met the amount of calories that our body is consuming. So I was talking to, who was it? I think I met with a new person today, and I was talking to her about this, and she's like, yeah, I feel like, so she has 5 kids, she's busy, and she basically is like, yeah, I don't ever really feel hungry. And maybe some of you guys have felt that before, and it's because our metabolism is designed to keep us from starving. And so it will burn less calories and use all the calories we're consuming to make sure our vital organs are functioning. And so it just kind of goes into a dormant stage. So our job is to wake it up and to get it to burn more efficiently. So that's why we slowly increase our calories each week. If you guys have ever done an extreme weight loss diet, or if you have a history of yo-yo dieting, or if you've hit a plateau and felt like nothing you do works, you are all a good candidate for the reverse diet process. So how does the reverse work? So you guys have been tracking your food, right? And you're also tracking your weight. The reason we track our weight is because we want to make sure that the amount of food that we're eating, our body is able to adjust and burn the same amount of calories that we're eating. Okay. So each week when you check in, you're telling me your highest weight and your lowest weight. And as long as there's going to be some fluctuation, but as long as your average is still the same, we're increasing your calories by 100 calories every single week. Once you hit a point where your weight goes up 2 to 3 to 4 pounds and it doesn't drop back down, that's when we know we're at the top of your metabolic threshold. And that's when we know, okay, we've gone past our threshold. We need to bring the calories back down to the week previous and stay there for 2 weeks and see if our weight comes back down. So when you guys get there, just know that we'll bring the calories back down to what they were the previous week. We'll stay there for 2 full weeks. As long as weight sustains and you don't drop weight, then we know we've met your metabolic threshold. Okay. When you're really close to the top of your reverse, if you have a day where you overindulge or you eat over your calories, you will put on weight and it won't come off. So you have to be very careful when you're really close to the top of your reverse. Does that make sense to everybody? I can repeat it if it doesn't. Yes. So if you're close to the top of your reverse, if you eat over the calories, for example, if my calories are at 2,700, if I ate 2,900, I'm going to put on weight and it's not going to come back down unless I drop my calories to like 2,500. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do have a question on that, Tirsa.
Okay.
What if I undereat one day? Like maybe just by 150 or 200 calories,
Yeah. On purpose?
if I'm eating out. Sorry, go ahead.
On purpose?
Not on purpose. No, maybe I didn't track it right, or, if I'm eating out and I wasn't able to meet my macro goal, how does that impact
I see what
this
you're saying.
process?
Yeah. So that's less detrimental than if you eat over.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're eating under, let's say 3 of your 7 days you're eating under, I will probably not increase your calories the next week because I need to know what your body does at the
right.
have set for you. So if you have 3 of your 7 days, you're not hitting your calories, and then I increase you and we go way over and your weight goes up, then I won't really know why.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Sense?
Okay. Thanks.
That's a good question. The other thing that we're looking for this very first reverse with you guys is we're also looking to see, we're keeping your carbohydrates low. So we're keeping, some of you are at 30%, but before we start your reverse, your carbs are going to be at 25%. We want to see what your fat intake, what your body can handle with fat and what your body can handle with protein. Then we'll cut you. And then on your second reverse that we do, we'll figure out what your carbohydrate threshold is by increasing carbs. And so your carb percentage will go up. So right now you guys might be feeling like, man, my carbs are so low, I can't sustain this. It will change, I promise. Okay. Any questions on that first reverse part? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay.
So quick question here, sorry. Yeah, when we start the cut, when we start to pull back on calories, how many weeks will we start to pull back? Like what's the length of that before we go back up again?
Yep, that's a good question. And we're going to cover that right now, as long as nobody has any other questions about the reverse process.
I do have one question. If you and I are almost reaching to the top of our reverse, will Thanksgiving affect our weight at all?
If you overindulge on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, personally, what I'm gonna do is and if you want, we can do this too. I'm gonna drop my calories leading up to Thanksgiving, not a lot, but like by like 200.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna keep my calories today up until Thursday at like 2,500 instead of 2,700. And because I'm traveling and I won't have as much control over what we're eating.
Mhm.
And then when I get back, depending on what my weight's doing, I will either stay at 2,500 calories for a week and then increase back up to 27, or I may just jump back up to 27, depending on what my weight's doing,
Okay.
which
Okay.
means it's going to push my cut back, but that's okay. Because personally, I'm not going to cut until after the holidays. So let's say we find the top of your reverse, but it's the holiday season and you guys are like, I don't want to cut during the holidays. You don't have to. We'll just stay at the top at your metabolic threshold. We'll stay there for as many weeks as we need to until you have a good solid month that you know that you can fully commit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool.
So what happens if we stay at the top of our metabolic threshold during the holidays?
Nothing.
Like how does
You will not gain weight. You'll stay right there. You'll stay right where you're at. Does that make sense, Chadwick?
Yep.
Yeah. So as long as you don't eat over your calories, you won't gain weight. You'll stay right there. You'll just keep fueling your metabolism. You just keep putting wood on the fire and it's still burning strong and bright. And once we do the cut, it's going to respond really well.
And then once you cut, how long do you cut for?
Yeah, I'm going to go over all of that right now.
Mhm.
So first of all, how do we know we're ready for a cut? So there's two ways we know we're ready for a cut. The first one is if you no longer feel hungry and you feel like you're force feeding. So that's why one of the questions in your check-in is telling me your hunger, like if you're full or if you're satisfied or if you're really hungry. That's why I asked that question, because I need to know if you feel like you're force feeding. I have a client right now that she started her cut today. Her weight hasn't increased, but she cannot eat any more food. She's literally like, I can't do it. And we started her cut this week, even though it's Thanksgiving, because she just can't do it. Even though we probably could have pushed her a couple more 100 calories, she just couldn't eat any more food. So we're cutting her, and that's okay. This is your journey. So that's one way we know. The second way is if your weight jumps and it doesn't come back down after a couple of days. Some of you guys have been doing this for several weeks now, and you may notice that when I increase your calories, for the first few days, your weight goes up. But what happens by like Wednesday or Thursday? It drops back down. 9 times out of 10, it drops back down, right? So that's normal. That's okay. It's because your metabolism is kind of like, oh, wait, I have more food. But then that metabolic adaptation happens and it starts to burn even stronger and your weight drops back down. So those are the two ways we know we're ready for a cut. So when you're ready for a cut, when your body's ready for a cut, we're either going to stay there until you know that you have the time and energy to commit fully for a full month, or we're going to start your cut. Okay. So your cut is 4 weeks-ish. All right. We're going to try and get 3 to 4 cuts out of you. And this is how it works. Let's say you get to 2,000 calories, which, by the way, most females are going to get between 2,000 and 2,100 calories. Some of my CrossFit females are getting more than that because they have a lot of muscle mass, and you're going to burn more calories when you have a lot of muscle mass. So just generally speaking, we want females to get around that 2,100 calorie range. We want our males to get up to like 2,800 calories. But again, depending on how much muscle mass you have, we can get you higher. We don't want to compare one person to another because everybody's bodies are so different, but just kind of know like that's where we're trying to get you at least. So let's just say 2,000 calories, and let's say it's a female, 2,000 calories. Your first cut is going to be to 1,700 calories. So we're going to drop by 300 calories. We're going to keep your protein at 30%, so a little bit higher. We're going to keep your carbs around 30%, and your fat's going to be at 40%. You're going to stay there for a full week. It's super, super, super important that you hit your macros during your cut. Okay, this needs to be consistent, especially over the weekends. So you're going to weigh in daily. And the second week, we will cut you another 300 calories. We'll increase protein percentage to 35% and drop fat to 35%. The third week, we're going to drop you another 300 calories. So now you're down to 1,100 calories. We're going to increase protein again, another 5%, because protein helps us feel full longer. So we want to make sure that you have a lot of protein. We're going to drop carbs to 25%, and we're going to keep fat at 35%. Now, this is where you have to communicate with me a lot. If you are dying at 1,100 calories, I have to know that, because if you have a weak moment where you binge, you're going to gain 5 pounds and you're not going to get that momentum back. Not right now. So it's super, super important that we don't binge during this time. Okay. So you have to communicate with me. If you're saying, hey, Tirsa, I can't do this anymore, I'm ready to come out of my reverse, then I say, okay, let's do it. And we slowly reverse you if you want to come out of your cut. If possible, we're going to cut you one more time and get you down to 900 calories, where our protein is going to be a little bit higher. Our fat is going to be at 30% and our carbs are going to be at 30%. Now this is low. Like we don't want to stay here for long. You may be able to stay here for 3 days. You may be able to stay here for 10 days. This is completely up to you. You have to tell me when you're ready. And also maybe you've reached your goal. Maybe your goal was to lose 10 pounds and you've lost it and you're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's come up out of the cut. It's totally up to you. Okay. So how we come, any questions on the cut?
Yeah, I guess like it's just based on how you feel. Like you could stay at that cut as long as you feel okay.
We don't want to stay there too long because we don't want that metabolic adaptation. So
Okay.
the most I would keep you there is 10 days. And then we would reverse you back up. And
so when you do a reverse after you come out of that dramatic of a cut, is it also incremental? Because
that is why
that
people
seems
gain
awful.
Yes. Yeah. That is why people gain weight when they do diets, because they don't know how to come out of a diet the right way. They just go back to what they were doing before. Okay, so Alexia asked,
And is it incremental? Sorry, is it incremental? I'm sorry, Alexia. Is it incremental to the almost the exact same? So like if you cut down to 1,100 or 900 or whatever it is, do you reverse in the same kind of order or do you reverse faster?
I'll go over that in just a second.
Okay.
I want to make sure there's no more questions about the cut. So Alexia said, what happens if you get stuck or gain during your cut? So I was actually just going to bring this up. So Alexia is in her cut right now. So last week we dropped her. Are you okay with me sharing this information, Alexia? Okay. She said yes. So we dropped her last week. She was at 1,200. And what happened is her weight went up about a pound. So she was kind of freaking out. She's like, why is this happening? Why is my weight going up when I'm eating so little? Because she's seen a really steady weight loss. I think she's down a little over 10 pounds. So she's wondering, why does this happen? So our body is fighting. It's going to fight. When it gets that low, it's going to fight. It's kind of like a survival. And so it can go back up. But you have to just stay the course. It will change. I promise you. So today we dropped her again. So now she's at 900. We just started it today. So I'm not sure what her weight's going to do tomorrow, but there's no way you're going to eat 900 calories and not lose weight, guys. It's just not going to happen. So Alexia We handled her situation a little bit different than the rest of you guys. I didn't reverse her all the way up because she has a specific event at the beginning of December she needed to be a certain weight and look a certain way for. So we started her reverse before we started her cut before we had hit the top of her reverse, just so you guys are aware of the situation. But she's already seen over 10-pound weight loss. And she's been with me since October, mid-October. So about a month. Right, Alexia? Okay. So plateaus. Let's talk about plateaus. So everybody's bodies have a set point that their bodies like to weigh. It's comfortable at that weight. And most of you probably know what that is. That is your plateau. And breaking this typically takes something extreme. And you have to hold yourself at that extreme until it breaks the plateau. So let's say Alexia, I can't remember what your weight is, but let's just say it's, 150. And that's her plateau. And she's not breaking through that plateau. And even though we dropped her calories to 900, her body won't break that plateau. We have to keep her there until her body breaks that plateau, and it will. So she just has to be patient, and we just have to keep her there until we break through that plateau, because otherwise it's gonna be too comfortable there. It's gonna stay there, and then when we try and reverse, she's just gonna gain weight. We don't want that. Okay. I'm going to go over the bringing yourself out of the reverse in just a second, but I want to make sure that there's no questions on the cut.
One more question on the cut. Do you exercise the same during a cut?
You can. It's totally up to you. The only thing that you can't do is introduce a new exercise routine during your cut. Like if you've never been a runner and you decide you want to be a runner, during your cut is not the time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can still exercise. Ben, did you have a question, or someone else did?
Oh, I have a question. So, losing strength during a cut.
So when we do a cut like this, if we scan you, which most of you guys will be scanned, you're going to see on a scan that you're going to lose muscle mass. The reason is because you're going to lose a lot of water weight. So water weight goes towards that skeletal muscle, it goes towards that lean body mass. So it's going to show that lean body mass dropped. Now, if I didn't have my body scanner and you guys didn't know what your muscle mass was, you would not feel less strong. Does that make sense? You would feel less strong when you're eating a low amount of calories, but as soon as I brought you back up and we got you back to the top of your metabolic threshold, you would feel just as strong, if not stronger than you were before. Does that kind of answer your question, Chadwick?
Yeah.
So yeah, on a scan, it's probably going to show that you lose some muscle mass, which in turn means that your body fat percentage may not change as much as you're hoping, but your weight will. But as soon as we bring you back out of that cut, your muscle mass is going to go, it's going to show that it goes back up because water weight will increase. Like think about a bodybuilder. When they cut right before a show, they lose all their water weight and they feel really weak. Are they actually physically weaker, like their muscles? No, they just feel weak because they eat such a little amount, and they're trying to rid their body of all their water weight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Any other questions on the cut or plateaus?
The plateau is just you see that during the cut, because I feel like it's specific to the cut, or can you hit a plateau as you're going through the raising of the
Yeah,
calories?
you can hit a plateau during. Well, but remember, our goal isn't weight loss during the reverse. So It doesn't really matter if you hit a plateau during the reverse, it's mostly during the cut. So for females, we're going to get you down to like 900 to 1,000 calories. For males, we're going to get you down to about 15 to 1,600 calories. Okay. Another thing we can do is if you hit a plateau and it's maybe your second cut and you're hitting a plateau, we can do bigger jumps down. So instead of a 300 calorie cut, we can do a 400 or a 500 calorie cut and kind of force your body to drop the weight. Does that make sense? So we'll just keep it's not like a set in stone, like we kind of have to play with it, and everybody's going to be different. Okay, let's talk about the second reverse. So once we're at the bottom of your cut and you're done and you're ready to come back out of it, we're going to start your first climb back out. We're going to increase by 200 calories and kind of help you get out of the bottom. Okay. Now, when we climb out of the cut on the second reverse, we can increase a little faster. So we can increase by about 125 to 150 calories a week. Whereas before, like right now, we're increasing by between 80 and 100 calories. So we're going to climb back out a little bit faster. But those first few weeks, you guys are still going to be eating at a deficit. So you'll probably still see weight loss while we climb out of the reverse or out of the cut. The second reverse, like I said earlier, is designed to help you find your carbohydrate threshold. We have found your metabolic threshold. We know how much protein your body needs. We know what your fat percentage should be. Now we need to see, how does your body metabolize carbohydrates? Everybody's bodies are different. Some people metabolize carbohydrates really well. Those are generally people that are naturally thinner or have a hard time putting on weight or muscle. They just metabolize carbs, and so that means they can eat a lot of carbs. Some of us can't do that, and we need to find what that carbohydrate threshold is. And so as we increase, we give it to you in carbohydrates so we can see what your body does. The second reverse, let's say you started with me and you were at 165 pounds, and after the first cut, we get you down to 150. We're going to bring you up out of that cut, and your weight will not increase. You will not gain weight. You will stay at 150, and we'll be able to get your metabolism to burn the same amount of calories it was burning when it was 165 pounds. And sometimes we can even get it higher than that. So now your metabolism is working for you instead of against you. And you're eating the same amount of food, but you weigh 15 pounds lighter. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, so I think my question is that the end game? It's reverse, cut, reverse, and then by then you figured out two big milestone markers and you can kind of maintain it from there. Is that kind of the end goal?
It just depends on what your goal is. Let's say I have somebody that needs to lose 40 pounds. They're not going to lose 40 pounds in their first cut. So we would reverse a second time, and then we would do another cut. And we would do the process over and over until they got to where they wanted to be.
Okay.
But the second time we cut, we know all three numbers. We know what that person's body, what that macro percentage is that person's body likes. There's no guessing, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So, if you are somebody that has a significant amount of weight to lose, you're going to lose a lot more weight in that first cut. Whereas if you're somebody that has 10 to 15 pounds to lose, you'll probably see like a 10 to 12 pound weight loss in that first one. But then you may want to say, you may have a new goal and say, okay, now I want to see if I can get 5 or 10 more pounds on a second cut. Now, let's say you reach your goal weight and you want to focus on muscle building, we can use this same process for building muscle. Building muscle, a lot of you know, is a lot harder than losing fat. it takes a lot longer. So if you are someone that wants to build muscle and that's your number one priority, you have to commit to 6-month building cycle. Okay, so what we would do is we would cut you until we get you to the weight you want to be at. Then we reverse diet you all the way up to your metabolic threshold. And then we eat at a surplus until you have put about 20 pounds on. And it will feel uncomfortable, and you'll probably put some fat on as well. But you're going to be lifting like crazy. You're going to feel really, really strong. And then when we do your cut, you're going to have that muscle underneath the body fat, and it's going to pop, and you're going to see really good definition.
Hey, Tirsa, with that plan, like, you continue to follow the normal programming that's through the gym, or do you do something additional?
So it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is overall muscle throughout your body, the CrossFit programming is perfect for that. If you have a targeted area, like let's say you want bigger glutes, you're going to have to train that outside of the gym. You'll have to do that 3 to 4 days a week of specific glute work. Or if you maybe you have, like you're a guy and you want bigger pecs, you're going to have to bench press a lot more and heavy.
And if you like personally, like, I'm not looking at a targeted area, I'm just looking to like gain a certain percentage of muscle, then I mean, you just kind of.
Then CrossFit is great for that, and we would cut out any extra cardio. So like Chadwick, for example, he likes to add in extra cardio, and like every time he does, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Don't you want to put muscle on? Because when you add the cardio, sometimes you just need it for your mental health. Like I'm the same way. Like I like to do cardio, but if your goal is to put muscle on, then we're cutting out that cardio. We're just, because otherwise your calories are going to be burned for cardio and they're not going to be available for muscle growth. But also our percentages for macros are going to change if we're trying to build muscle. Our carbohydrate percentages will go way up because carbs help fuel the muscle. We'll also talk about eating more protein. So if you're in a muscle building stage, you're going to eat, like right now I have you guys, your goal is to eat about 1 gram protein per pound ideal body weight. If you're trying to build muscle, we're going to increase you to 1.2 grams per pound ideal body weight. And we're also going to increase your carbs by 5% increments as we increase you until we get you to 50% carbs. And you should get about 8. If you're doing, so you can build 2 ways. You can do like a clean build, which you're eating, 80% of the time you're eating clean foods. And that should give you an 8 to 12 pound build. But if you're doing like a dirty build where you're eating like jelly beans and like chocolate milk and things to just get the calories in, then you could put on up to 30 pounds. Like for guys, I'm talking up to about 30 pounds. But we'll talk more about like your post-workout meal, what your percentages should be post-workout as far as your macros go, how heavy you should be lifting, and that kind of thing. So it's a little more intense. And that's why we do the cuts and the reverses first, because then you have a really good understanding of what your body needs and how to track. You kind of need to know all that stuff before you go into a build.
One more time, you said when you start, you're eating about 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight.
Yeah. So let's say you weigh 140 pounds, but you want to weigh 120 pounds. Then we would put your protein at that 120 to 125 range. And again, everybody's bodies are really different with that too. Like my body, I weigh 155 pounds, but my stomach hurts if I eat more than about 140 grams of protein. And I actually feels better at like 120. So personally, I like my protein a little bit lower. But then there's other people that like it at 1.2 grams per pound body weight. It's just, you just have to figure it out. That's why we do this, because everybody's bodies are so different. I wish there was a one size fits all, but there's not. Okay, I feel like there was another question that was asked that I didn't touch on. Okay, so one question that was asked is, should we be eating before a workout if we do exercise early in the morning? So eating before a workout, it depends on your goal, and it also is a personal preference. So I personally don't eat before my workout. I have tried eating before and I feel good. I've tried not eating before and I feel good. So it just depends. It really does. If you're someone that has low blood sugar naturally and you're lifting heavy, definitely eat something with carbohydrates before you lift, or else you won't feel good and you won't have a good lifting session. If you are not, and maybe you're somebody that feels sick, if there's anything in their stomach, don't eat. It's totally up to you. If you're somebody that works out later in the afternoon, I think most of you guys are working out in the morning, except for Chadwick. Oh, actually, Chadwick, you work out in the mornings too, but when you CrossFit, it's in the afternoon. If it's afternoon, then I would make sure you're eating something within 2 hours of your start time. So if you eat lunch at noon, but you're not working out till 4, you need to have a snack at 2. Any other questions on that? Okay. Another question I got is any snack ideas for afternoons? So afternoon is usually when you feel like you have cravings, where you want to be snacky and like kind of graze. So what works for me is I make sure that my afternoon snack is something I really look forward to. It's something that tastes good to me. I've shared my protein yogurt with a lot of you guys. That protein yogurt tastes like a treat to me, so I really like it. So that's an option. It's full of protein. It's basically just Greek yogurt, 1 ounce of frozen blueberries, 1 ounce of high-fat granola that I buy at Costco, and every once in a while I'll squirt a little bit of whipped cream on it, and that works for me. If you're somebody that likes salty, or you want your snack to take you a while to eat, I'll do light popcorn with some jerky, because popcorn will take you a long time to eat, and it's something you can do mindlessly while you're like doing some other tasks, driving, something like that. Or those popcorner chips, that's another good option. Just pair it with a protein, because that's going to be a fat and a carb. So just pair it with some kind of protein. Anybody have any other suggestions that they like during the afternoons?
What kind of chips did you say?
They're called Popcorner. I know they sell them at Sam's Club. If you have a Sam's Club membership, they sell the individual bags, like a box of them, of individual bags. But Popcorner you can find at any grocery store. But if you guys need more snack ideas, I know I've sent a lot over, but. Okay. Stephanie said, I was late because of work. I heard a bit of chat about Thanksgiving when I got on. If I'm at low calories, just starting the reverse, and I know for a fact that I'm going to eat a decent amount on Thanksgiving, am I just out of luck? You can text me through the app. Okay. So what we talked about is that Thanksgiving meal is one meal and it should be enjoyed and guilt-free. And if you choose to track Thanksgiving meal, that is totally up to you. I'm not requiring that from you guys. There's going to be times where we don't track a meal. Is it going to slow our progress a little bit? Yeah, maybe. But this is our life, guys. It's a lifestyle. We have to make it realistic. We have to be able to live our normal life. Thanksgiving is a normal part of our lives. And if you have a meal that you're not tracking and you are being pretty mindful, but yeah, you're overindulging a little bit, you're going to be okay. Just get back on track the next day. Don't let it turn into a weekend of indulging. That's where you'll really start to see how it affects your progress. Let it be the meal and get back on track. Make sure you're hitting your water goal. Another thing we talked about is identifying what success looks like to you in that day. I'm going to save this and add it to my YouTube channel, and then I'll message out this link so that if you guys want to rewatch it or just watch parts of it, you can do that too. Stephanie said, hallelujah. Okay, what other questions do you guys have for me before we sign off? I know it's late, I'm sorry. Nothing? Awesome. Okay, well, if this, oh, somebody unmuted, okay.
Well, maybe it's a dumb question, but when we like text you on the little app, does everybody see that or just you?
Just me.
Oh, good. So I have some questions.
Yep, me. Nobody can see each other's dashboards or information at all, just me.
Thank you.
Unless you put it in the group chat. In the
Okay.
this group, then everyone can see it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so I am always looking for ways to improve as a coach. So if you guys liked this Q&A and you would like to do this more frequently, I am totally willing to do this because you guys are kind of all in the same group as far as like your journey goes. There may be other questions that pop up. Another thing is if I hear the same question over and over, I might do a quick little video and then just share it to the group for everybody. Because if I'm hearing it from more than one person, chances are the rest of you guys are going to have the same question. So don't be afraid to ask questions because if you're thinking it, there may be somebody else is thinking it as well. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving and some of these things that we talked about tonight are helpful and you're able to implement them. Please share with me your successes this week. I'm really excited. Let's focus on the positives and let's not beat ourselves up for things that we didn't do. Let's focus on the things that we did better. Remember, we're looking for progress, not perfection. We don't expect you to be perfect. We just want to see if you can be better than you were last year. So I hope that you guys can take that to heart and have an amazing week. Happy Thanksgiving.